Hi,
Hi.
welcome to February's Next Step Leadership Leadercast. Today we have a session in store for all of you viewers and listeners and watchers and readers. I have with me Chef Nikki Pettineo, certified executive chef and culinary instructor. She also has, I'm going to do the shameless plug whether she wants me to or not, Pro Seasoning. We'll get you the link. It'll be on YouTube and on the channel and some other things, and we'll get things there. I've known Nikki now
A decade.
10 years.
Yeah.
My goodness. I've watched Nikki always be a positive force and a positive light in the classroom with people in tough situations or situations where you're like, oh man, I don't know what we're gonna do. Nikki has always been a bright foundational cornerstone, and she could do no wrong. So I told her that I promised her that I wouldn't fanboy out completely, but I mean this with the sincerest heart. I try to live my life in truth and love. And when I read her most recent piece, we no longer sell drugs. Excuse me. Yeah, we no longer sell drugs. We sell artisan bread at the farmer's market. I had to reach out to her, and if I didn't ask, I would never know. And here we are. Here we are today. We're going to have some time together. We have all of your questions from viewers, and we are going to get after it. And I already see her smiling underneath the smile. So I'm going to start us off with, who is Chef Nikki Pettineo?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on your, yes, big hearts. I mean, this is like an amazing opportunity to just like share ideas and talk about leadership and, just have a casual conversation. So I'm very excited and happy that you reached out, so we could connect. But who is Nikki? I'm still trying to figure that out. Nikki is sometimes annoyingly laser focused on things, to an excessive extent. Nikki works hard. Nikki also likes to chill out whenever necessary. Nikki is sober.
Chill out. Yeah.
Nikki's sober 2+ years. And I'm just trying to do the next right thing.
Awesome. I love that. For those who are watching and listening, what is your next right thing? What are your current goals?
So I have a lot of goals right now. One goal is, my little side gig, Pro Seasoning. I really want to take it to its toddler stage. It's been in the infant stage for a while. Now we're going into the toddler stage. And I just want to really deliver professional grade spices with very little, no anti-caking agents, no unnecessary fillers. A little goes a long way. Quality spices to the home cook so they can cook like a pro. So that's one of my goals. And, as you mentioned, I'm a culinary instructor. I teach a program through Tallahassee Community College. We have a contract with the Department of Corrections, and I teach culinary at a prison or correctional facility. So that program is also in a stage where we're ready to grow. And, the goal there is to add more certifications so that when the inmates are end of sentence or EOS, they have tons and tons of certifications and paperwork behind them that says, I can tell you that I can do this, but also, I have these pieces of paper that's certified that I can do this. So, I'm working on that, and I would like our program to be the template for, the rest of the state. That's my goal.
Wow. So I want to make dreams come true for not only people who are interested in cooking, but people who are certified and have paper behind them and credential behind them when they are ready for end of sentence. That's powerful. So yeah, those aren't just, well, I plan on reading a book tonight or next week. That's fantastic. It's ambition at its finest. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I have here, Nikki, is a set of questions from our viewers, from the people that do listen and are turning into the leader casts. So I'm going to give you those questions, and then I got a question for you at the end of these right here. All right. How do you motivate your students, especially the ones that lack confidence, but you see potential in them?
That is a really good question. When I first read that question, I immediately thought of how culinary school used to be, and there used to be a lot of gatekeeping, what I call gatekeeping. We were preparing people for, and I taught at a private university as well, not, in the free world as well. And we were preparing people, traditionally for going into a hotel or a restaurant and kind of slogging away on the line, until you're deemed worthy enough to move on to the next step. But, I saw kind of that pattern, and myself with my career, I didn't do that. I started as a private chef for athletes. I went, from there I opened a restaurant, from there I worked on a yacht, from there I went and taught, so I didn't do, I found my footing in culinary. And so instead of gatekeeping and saying like, you're not good enough for culinary, you can't be in my club, which was how it used to be. Now I really try to identify, if somebody has a natural talent or a natural, interest in a certain, field. Like, say for instance, the student is, they're introverted, and they make amazing cakes. Why not foster the idea of that person opening up a wholesale cake distribution, and they can work out of a warehouse, and then they're not like customer facing,
Sure. So play right into their strengths.
Right into their strengths of like, hey, you don't, and something like desserts, restaurants don't really like making desserts. So wholesaling desserts is a great, so something like that, you can really grow some, foster some talent there and help that person stay motivated. So I think that, reaching the learner where they're at and reaching the person where they're at, and, that's how I try and keep people motivated.
I love that. I think one of the things that I don't want to lose in that, Nikki, is that you started that with, well, here's my experience list. I have athletes, yachts, restaurant. So you bring so much to that conversation for them that, if they had a new instructor or somebody just out of, attaining their degree or their skill set in being an instructor, I think that you add a level and a layer to that where you do meet them where they are, and then you have avenues, almost like roadmaps or veins to kind of and that's really, really special. I don't want to lose that in the shuffle. I need to bring that up. So yeah. Next question I have for you is, this one made me stop and think for a minute too. How do you teach real world multitasking and kitchen culture from a classroom? More importantly, do you teach about the darker side of kitchens, and how can we change that aspect of restaurant worker culture? And in parentheses, they wrote down alcohol and drug use. It's definitely a restaurant thing. Now, to preface this, though, I think it kind of goes into the part one of where you were talking about working at a private university, where you're like, all right, we start them on the line. They understand the concepts of that and kind of move through. But this is one of those questions that I was really excited to have in front of you.
Yes, me too. For two reasons, and I'll definitely unpack all that. But uh, you know, the way that I kind of like teach about kitchen culture. I mean, we have a state of the art kitchen where we're at. We're very lucky. Beautiful equipment, a decent size, classroom where I can teach, and so they learn very hands on. We're working, shoulder to shoulder, and I'm right there teaching them how to make sauces and stuff like that. But kitchen culture, it can be like in a really aggressive environment, and I do tell them sometimes, look, we're in the ivory tower of academia. This is the nicest, sweetest way anyone's ever gonna tell you.
Drink from me. Yeah.
That's right. This is the nicest, sweetest way anyone's ever gonna tell you that you need to clean your station, right? In the field, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive, and I say, but look, you gotta grow a thick skin and not take things personally. So that, it is an aggressive environment, some people, prefer that, they need the kick in the pants. I've had students that, we do the Serve Safe certification for manager, which is a very hard certification to pass. And, I've had a student or two fail, and it's funny. They're like, you really need to push me, chef. So I go, you're a bum, Rock. He's got you on the ropes, Rock, and they need a little bit more.
You gotta craft thunder, Rock. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Give him the full mic, right? Yeah.
Full. So, and that way we keep it kind of light too, they think it's funny. So, that is, kind of the darker part of being in the food and beverage industry. And then, like, as you brought up too, is, drugs and alcohol. And like I said earlier, I'm sober almost 2.5 years. It took me 22 years to realize that I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and and prior to that, it was drugs and alcohol. But it was a byproduct of, trauma, obviously, but definitely working in the food and beverage industry, so there's a lot of peer pressure and stuff like that there. So I use myself as a cautionary tale for them. And I also tell them, if you feel triggered by that lifestyle, do something else in food and beverage, like our little cake shop that sells wholesale cakes. You can do hors d'oeuvres the same way. There's lots of things you can do. You can sell bread and jam with the cottage food law at the farmer's market, but if it's a trigger, then stay away from it, and the reality is when people are if they want to use substances, they're going to, so they're not going to quit till they're ready. So you just have to try and help foster the idea of staying away from those triggers,
Sure. Congratulations, by the way. I didn't get a chance to mention that. I think the other thing that I would say to that piece is sometimes individuals need you to get all the way down into the hole with them, bring the step ladder with you, let them out of the hole, and then climb out yourself. And acknowledging that is so powerful. And you being so open and real with me and the people that will view this, thank you for that. I sincerely appreciate you sharing that part of your journey with us.
Yeah, no, it's one of the best things I ever did. And, I like to be super transparent about it and share my story. So.
Thank you. Do you have a dish that you have taught how you've made many times that you find it daunting to teach, and what is that dish? And then the second part of that is, do you have a favorite dish to teach?
Okay, so awesome questions. The stuff I'm not really into teaching is like the really old timey,
old timey.
Garde-manger stuff with the aspic, the meat jelly and things like that. Like I've just, you see it, and I hate to say it, and bless them, love them, they did amazing. But you see the world culinary competitions, and it's just, it looks beautiful. You could ice skate on top of these hors d'oeuvres and stuff with the amount of meat jelly that's on there. But I'm just like, look at that, I'm like, who's eating that? Who's finding that delicious? You know what I mean? It's an art. It's an art, and that's great. But I just think that the American palate is kind of, it's not really for us, so we just don't really like that. So yeah, that's one of the things I kind of steer clear of. And
old-timey garbage out the window.
Yeah, old-timey garbage.
If you're into it, no disrespect, just
No
not
disrespect.
Chef Nikki's thing. That's all.
God bless. I just don't want to do it myself.
Peace and love. Yeah.
But and I was thinking about a favorite dish. I do have a favorite dish, but I also have a favorite fundamental, okay. that I love to teach, and I get way stupid excited about it, and that is the braising sequence.
Oh.
Okay. And the reason why I love the braising sequence is that it is a sequence of cooking process that allows you to make an exponential amount of different dishes from all over the world with the same cooking technique. You just change the flavors, change the protein, change the wine or whatever it is you're gonna do, put in there, and you can if you learn that sequence correctly, you no longer need to use a recipe. It's right off the dome. So I felt that is like one of my favorite things, that a technique to talk about is the braising sequence. My students, they know I get far too ramped up on that, and that's something we spend a lot of time on, because you can make shrimp etouffee, you can make chicken piccata, you can make a chuck roast, pot roast, you can make, there's so many things, roast pork loin with cherry sauce and, cherry brandy sauce or something like that. It's all the same technique, so you see how exciting
I'm watching you, and I'm just like, I'm going to let her go because you're on fire. You said about the transcripts on the other side, and I just see it's gotten you're pumped up, and you're like braising.
I need to get it tattooed across my chest in Old English, like braising sequence, with like a pork loin, I love
it. I love it. Is there a dish though that comes with that technique that you're like, this is my home run? This is the president's coming for dinner, or I don't know, like the queen's coming. What is it?
Queen's coming. I love making like a chicken marsala, veal piccata, chicken franchise. Like those are all the same technique. But my one, like the queen is coming, or the king now, right?
Yes, the king. That's right.
Charles III, right? Yeah, he's coming over. And I make steak au pois. That's my my go-to comfort zone of I'm gonna make you something delicious, but then, which is a seared peppercorn crusted New York strip, seared, and you cook it. I cook it to 125 degrees and let it rest, and then you add cognac to the pan, flambe, add cream, reduce, and then finish with butter, and it is like top notch.
If you're listening and you didn't take something from that, we can't help you. There's nothing else we can do. Reach out to Chef Nikki after this, and she'll probably do private sessions for a couple bucks, but we'll figure it out.
I do have that recipe on my website, chefnikki.net. That's Nikki with 2 Ks, and I have that recipe. It's a steak au pois burger.
Awesome. Shame, plug away. I'm gonna actually plug too. Volume 1, Volume 2 available right now. Check them out. Have there been students that are gung-ho, right? Like they're ready to rock, that going back to braising, lack fundamentals or lack technique and can't even boil water? That have learned and adapted and become great chefs. What advice would you give for beginners? Somebody might have heard your answer to your favorite dish and then also saw how excited you were with braising and go, I can't do that. I don't know I can barely do this mac and cheese that I like with the Velveeta. So, I mean, you never, how would you, how do you help somebody And what advice would you give them?
For cooks just starting out, and they, I say put the work in. If they can get a job as a prep cook, I started as a prep cook. I would cut mounds of vegetables and calamari and make, I did all the dressings and the sauces at this one restaurant. Everything was made from scratch. But I could tell you what, like if you woke me up out of a dead sleep and you're like, Nikki, we need vinaigrette, I'd be like, okay, and I'd get up and I'd make you I'd make it 5 gallons without even thinking about it. So that's what
But that's
it
from
sets you
putting
up
the
for
time
success.
in.
Yeah, putting the time in and learning the fundamentals like the braising sequence, learning classical dishes, and then modernizing them. I do that a lot. I take classical dishes and I'll modernize them so that it's more for a current palate. So that's what I would say. And then also find a niche. What makes you happy? Like what do you really? Is it pancakes? Then they better be the best pancakes, with a really beautiful caramel apple sauce on top, and make it the best. If
Sure.
it's pancakes, make it the freaking greatest pancake. You could open a little food truck, and I would eat your pancakes.
What are you doing with how are you making your batter, the whole thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
take
that.
pride in it.
Take pride. I love it. Um, what efforts? This kind of goes off from food and talks a little bit more about culture and philosophy. What efforts have you made or been involved with to foster diversity, competence, and understanding?
Well, as a gay female in my kitchen, I already, I check a couple box with diversity. But I also make sure that, I'm talking about chefs of a diverse background, Marcus Samuelson, David Chang, Kat Cora. I do enjoy when my students can have representation and can see somebody who's succeeding in the culinary field or in food and beverage, and that person reminds them of themselves. I think that's really important, is representation. So I do make sure that we and then also when I talk about the history of French cuisine and stuff, I recognize that this is a very European version of how food was created in the gourmet world. But that's it kind of leaves out international food, food from the continent of Africa, and how important that impact is made on the rest of world cuisine. So just try and kind of like have representation at the ready, and give a wide variety of experiences and access to different people in the field.
I've never thought of it locally. We work with a lot of a variety of high school settings, and it's funny. We always talk about hey, my teacher looks like me, or hey, so having an opportunity to showcase and highlight, this is somebody of this nature, or this is somebody, this person's eclectic and they're different in this way, or and be able to celebrate everybody's differences and cultures. In the way that you lit up when you talked about African cuisine, it all aligns. I just had an aha moment from the education side of delivery of how we look at things with our high school partners. So thank you for that. You gave me homework, and I love every minute of it. 5A that came up. Tell us about being a female executive chef. Is it still a male dominated field? And then I guess the other subset of that is tell us about being a gay female, right? I mean, so how does this I think that you've hit on a couple things that are pretty powerful, and I'd love your just your thoughts and ideas on it.
the culinary field is very much still male dominated. We make little chips away at it. I think, we have to, definitely pay respects to Julia Child, and I'm bring her up again, Kat Cora, and like, Dominique Crenn, who is one of the only female chefs in the world to have 3 Michelin stars. They're just like, have been in the industry and have taken a weed whacker to getting us through to the next step. But I was thought of an example. I worked at Florida State University and during the time of the transition between 2 contracts, Sodexo to Aramark, and at the time, we were moving on to Aramark. Aramark hired me. I didn't, they hired me as an executive chef. They brought us all in to, one of the residential dining halls, and everybody met each other, and, the GM of the restaurant I was going to work in at, the residential dining hall that they moved me over to assumed I was the sous chef. And he took me aside and he started talking to me like, like I'm the sous chef, and he's telling me all this stuff, whatever. And I just let him go. And then,
how do you keep a straight face? I'm just
let him go. Like, I was just like, well, I was very overstimulated at the time. And I think my brain broke, and I was just like, okay. So we ended our discussion, and then he figured out that, the 6-foot tall white guy was my sous chef.
Gotcha.
So then he was like, "Oh, hey, chef," and he, then the tune totally changed, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay, it's me, I'm the boss."
Yeah.
So that stuff happens, and but you just got to keep on cruising, because if you really ruminate on stuff like that, it'll drive you crazy. So I mean, most of my day I forget that I'm 5 feet tall, and I just in female, I just keep moving forward and share my information. Yeah, I'm just Nikki around, really. Nikki. Like, I'm just Nikkiing around, and
I'm just Nikkiing around.
Yeah, man, exactly. You're a bum. Like, that's. That's what I do. And then, and then there's a kind of a reminder like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm a girl, and, right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing that's still, prevalent in the, industry. And it's hard for young females, like 20 years old. It's hard for them to get their footing, and a lot of them quit, And I don't blame them, because it's hard to have to re-explain yourself 50 million times. And but if I could give advice, I would say the best thing to do is just get your credentials in order, so that again, like, I can tell you I can do these things, but this list of people, they agree that I can do these things. So I don't really need to explain myself so much. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. Get your credentials in order and keep cruising. Mm-hmm. Just keep Nikkiing around. And also, it almost comes full circle to some of the beginning from our watchers and listeners is, get those individuals that are EOS credential ready. Get them, stay credential ready. So you're already in your own transparent truth and love. Hey, this is what you need to be doing. So that's fantastic. All right, those were the questions from our listeners and viewers. Which ones stuck out? Because what they don't know is, since they keep participating, I'm going to start really rewarding them. I'm going to reach out to them from social media and ask them. They have choice of swag. So we're talking anything from mugs to water bottles to volume 1 or volume 2, depending on what they want. Book bags, T-shirts.
Wow.
they have choice. So was there a
Right.
question of those 5 or 6 that stuck out that made you go, okay, schwaggerific that person?
Yeah, let's see. I really liked the question about the dark side of the kitchen, and so bringing to people's attention the substance abuse that does go on in the
Okay.
culinary field and food and beverage. So I think that's the winner for me.
All right, I'll be reaching out to him and I'll let him know that Nikki has given them her blessing as the question of the session.
That's right.
Next up, I have some questions here that are next step specific. These are my general questions that I try to hit up any LeaderCast participants. So here we go, the second round. What are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand, your Kindle? And one of my favorite follow-ups now is are you a tangible person, or is it fine on digital with the Kindle? And what is it? What do you currently got? Because it becomes homework forever. Most people who listen do go out and start buying or looking for whatever it is that people have mentioned. So what you got?
So I do prefer Kindle, digital reading, because it's just you don't have to futz around with the pages and all that. And I am reading the most current book is Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, and it's by Dan Harris, and it's a great entry into meditation, for people that are fidgety skeptics like me. So
We're too busy
right up my
nicking
alley.
around. Yeah, I get
We're
it.
nicking around. Sometimes
Dan Harris.
Dan Harris. Yeah, Dan
All right.
Harris.
All right, you heard it here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nikki, what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about you, and how do you work through it?
That's a deep one, man. Misconception. I don't know. I think people, I do tend to really keep things light, and try and stay positive. But I do have, some dark days, and they do happen, and I'm just working on being, growing as a person, and you're not gonna be like a bright sunshiny fireball every day. But I think that's one of the things that people, kind of have a misjudgment of me, is that I'm 100% of the time go go go, and there's some days where I kind of pull back and I need some alone time and stuff. So yeah.
Almost like a true extroverted introvert. Like, I
Yeah.
am here. Let's take on the world.
Yeah.
And where's my blanket?
Yes.
And, yeah, get away from me.
My turtle. Get my
Yeah.
turtle shell, and
I get it. You gotta.
down.
Yeah. And one of the things I learned over this in December is there's a real big difference between being recharged and unplugging.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that over the break, the difference between unplugging and then, recharging versus charging. It's all a very different formula. And I never knew that. I thought rest was rest. I was wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to your point, I think that would be the other layer of that is like, how do you shut it down, and why, how that looks like at how it could be a misconception is that you're always on fire and you're ready to rock. Actually, I'm trying to bring it, but it's already been brought. This is what I got today.
It's nap
I
time.
love it. Tell us about a time that you have failed as a leader. I use the word failed because it's strong,
Yeah.
but or missed. I think I might change that question to missed as a leader. But tell us about a time that you've put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, sure. So, and that too is also like it's a really great question, because you can learn from your own mistakes, and maybe hearing this, and I always like think back to when I first started teaching, and kind of like the gatekeeping that I was unaware that I was doing. And I think that I definitely failed my students a few times, and maybe even discouraged somebody from continuing, their journey into the food and beverage industry, or culinary industry, by gatekeeping a little bit. So, now I've learned I mean, that was, this is over a decade. You and I met, my first teaching gig. So you interviewed me actually. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I think I learned a lot in the last decade, and I think that, now I've grown as a leader to be more encompassing and fostering talent and skill and drive and want to succeed. And how can I help you? How can I serve you?
One of the first things I say when I enter most rooms is, I'm here to serve.
Yeah.
Whatever that may look like. So that's very powerful, to hear that from not only an educator, but somebody who's, you took your thumps and your lumps along the way, and I remember that interview, my goodness. And you bring up another good point, is there's a lot of people out there just like you that have never done it before, but they got so much heart, they got the skills, and going down the line of what you've been saying, do the work, right? Show up. And then eventually along the way, what happens is you find people who say, yes, I'm going to take a shot on you. I'm going to give you the chance. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do the things that you need to do. And to hear you not only be on an advocate level with everyone that now you work with in education, but you're on the other side of it going, what are you good at? What wakes you up in the morning to be in this classroom, in my life, or engaging with me right now? That's really, really powerful. It's so powerful. Awesome. I'm sorry. I get see. This is the problem. I turn into a fanboy the moment she goes off. I get going. Last question. We've made it. You've made it, Nikki. You've made it to the last question. What thoughts or ideas do you want to leave Lessons in Leadership LeaderCast watchers with? What could we leave them with from your perspective?
I would say never stop learning. It sounds like a cliche. Never stop learning, never think that you know everything. Try, if you're a leader, you also have a servant's heart, try and lead with that. Lead by example, show up, and also consider a teaching position in the Department of Corrections in your home state, because it's not a bad gig. It's safe. It's you have great benefits, and you can be a person to help people be a better neighbor, a better provider for their family, and reduce the recidivism, which is, people going back to prison. And also, you might just be, the thing that prevents another victim out there. So it's a cool thing to, and I really love working with inmates. I really love working with them. They're funny. They're hard to keep down. You know what I mean? Like they just brush stuff off and they move on, and So that's what I want to leave. Leave with the future leaders and the leaders that are watching today.
On that note, shameless plug, are you hiring, and can they find jobs? Can they find the position postings and things like that? And then just on some side note stuff, thank you, Tallahassee Community College, for sharing Chef Nikki with me today. And if the peeps in your classes get to see it, you've got one right here. If she's putting her name on your reference list when you're out there hunting for jobs, you've did it. You've done the right thing. So nothing but keep at it and keep doing it. And thanks for sharing your instructor with me today.
That's so awesome.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, so Florida Department of Corrections is hiring teachers. Also, we have some vacancies in Tallahassee Community College, and its workforce development is the division. So you can shoot a Google, or get on the Florida Department of Corrections recruitment website and get that job.
And chefnikki.net.
Right. That's Nikki with 2Ks.
2Ks.
That's right. Nikki.
Get your pro seasoning now.
Pro seasoning. You got to get your pro seasoning. Oops.
Yeah, there we go.
Made by a pro, so you can cook like a pro.
Love it.